Imagine walking into a room where loyalty and luxury collide and every secret you've ever guarded is about to explode in public. Today you'll meet Brendan Paul, the insider who went from chauffeuring Sean Diddy Combs' Jet 2, spilling the wildest details under oath. He's the man behind the clandestine freak-off nights, and what he reveals here will make you question everything you thought you knew. Stay locked in, because the first answer alone will leave. You're speechless, and that's just the beginning.
It didn't seem like he was a drug mule. But before we get off into that, Mighty, this is going to be, this week was the prosecution last week. They brought him in and they brought in the people that arrested Diddy, one of the agents that arrested Diddy. It's about to be over with, bro. The defense is going to go on next week. And they said they need probably a week or so to defend what the prosecution has took 5 to 6 weeks to do. So now, as I look back on everything, and before the drug mule, Brendan even testified, the case was locked in sync as far as the RICO, as far as the racketeering and everything like that, which is based on a federal law, based on the federal stuff. But this is where it gets tricky at. Brendan was brought in because KK, his assistant, refused to testify against him. So now they bring him in to make sure that she was a part of everything. So when they go after her and the other people that were co-conspirators, then they have them trapped up. You understand? So that's why they brought him in. You understand? It was the drugs. It was the going back and forth. It was him receiving money from her and Combs Enterprises in order to solidify what was going on. So him testifying was big for the prosecution, for the other people, not more so Diddy, but for the other people that they're going to get as co-conspirators. So Brendan did his job as far as he was saying that he was trying to say like he didn't know was getting 28 ounces of cocaine or pills and stuff was against the law, which this guy comes from a well-to-do family. He's college educated. He played ball at Syracuse. But prior to this incident, or prior to this situation with Diddy, I think he had a state charge. The state had caught him doing something, as far as drug related. So now they dropped his state charges. The federal government had the state charges dropped and everything. So he got a clean slate on life. You understand? So now what he need to do and what he did was he testified. The state was happy what they was because they closed. They didn't badger him anything. They tried to make it seem like, oh, this was a college kid, a kid that was a basketball prodigy. Because of COVID, he could see he stopped playing ball and everything like that. He started working with Diddy, and he became an individual that he could get over with the drugs. They didn't look at him for carrying the drugs or anything like that. So I believe that the federal government, because they have been watching Diddy for a long time, when they ran his charges, whether it's through facial recognition or everything like that, they knew he had a state charge. Because you got to realize, the day they raided the house, why would they be following him to the airport and he wasn't at Diddy's house? Why would they be following? They knew this kid had a charge, and some agents probably was working with him. Some agents was probably working with him based on his state charges that he had. Because they caught him at the airport. Who goes to the airport with drugs on their person? Who goes to the airport with drugs on their person? He would have did better trying to hide that inside his suitcase or something like that. But he got drugs on him? Nah, bruh. It don't even seem right. It don't even seem right. So I believe, and this is my own personal belief, this ain't the beliefs of the art of dialogue or nobody's. I believe this kid was working with the federal government all along. And by him working with the federal government, they knew. Because when they doing surveillance on people, they do facial recognitions. They knew when they saw this kid that he already had state charges for drugs. And by him having state charges for drugs, you understand? Well, we could get at him, see what he's gonna do with Diddy and everything like that, have him work for us, use him as a CI, catch him at the airport with drugs, and look where they at. He became a mule for him. He said that he only took drugs for Puff no more than anywhere from 6 to 10 times. But that's what probably he got caught with 6 or 10 times that they knew of. I can't believe all the freak offs that he was doing per week that he only brought drugs 6 or 10 times. That was crazy. I believe that his testimony was pretty good though. His testimony was light. The defense didn't go at him either. The defense didn't go at him at all. So he had a light day. Everybody thought that it was going to be bigger than that he was going to say more. See, everybody thought he was going to say more. Everybody thought the prosecutors were going to go at him, bro. You understand? I thought the prosecutors were going to go at him. But see, what they did was they wanted to make him seem like he was a good kid. How the hell he a good kid? He know he's buying illegal drugs. He wasn't going to the pharmacy. He wasn't going to Walgreens. He wasn't going to CVC. He wasn't going to none of those places buying drugs, bro. He was buying drugs from drug dealers, then bringing them back to Diddy's camp. You understand what I'm saying? But they wasn't getting into that. They tried to make him seem like a good kid, bro. This is crazy to me. And like he didn't know what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing. But they painted a picture for him, bro. They painted a picture that this was an all-American kid, and because of his bout with COVID, not playing at Syracuse no more, he went to work with with Diddy, and as a personal assistant, he became, Diddy used him as a drug dealer. When he had a case before Diddy. He had a case before Diddy. He had a state case. Why did they get rid of the state case? The state case came before the federal case. But they went real easy on him. And so did the defense. Can't make this shit up, bro. Before Brendan testified, they got rid of juror number 6. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I heard about that. I heard he was a black guy, right?
And the defense tried to make it seem like that it had something to do with they needed some racial balance on the jury and everything like that. It wasn't nothing about that, bro. This dude had lied on some forms and everything, and they caught up with him. And I think he's a government worker too. And he has to watch that too, because as being a government worker and you lied on those forms, you understand, that could go back to your job, and they could, because you have a certain status that you're supposed to have, and you don't supposed to, lie on forms. You have a certain thing that you have to be not only professional, you have a code of conduct. You understand? And if he lied on those court documents, and nobody's saying that he knew he was going to be on the Diddy trial, but he didn't tell the full truth And that's what it came end up biting them. It came end up biting them. Then like they have people in there that's watching the jurors. You understand? And if the jurors are making certain kind of eye contact, like they was making, like doing the freak off tapes, because they watched the freak off tapes too. So if they making some kind of eye contact, then look at Diddy a certain way or make some kind of grunts or something, they look at that. They got people that's just watching the juror and see if they getting out of line in any kind of way. But this juror, they was trying to make it seem like because he was black, that they needed that racial balance. And it had nothing to do with him being black, white, or anything. It's just the fact that he had lied and the judge kicked his ass out of there. You know what I'm saying? The judge took him and I think the judge talked to him. You know what I'm saying? And I guess he didn't like what was said and let him go. And I heard the jury is out. He's out there doing. He's speaking on certain people's podcasts and shows. He might be on the next Art of Dialogue. I don't know, but that's what it looked. That's what it ended up to, man. It ended up like that, man. That the juror had he told a lie, had nothing to do with his color and had nothing to do with it. But Puff team tried to play that off, and then they tried to get juror number 7 off. Now Puff wanted juror number 7 off, and I don't know what juror number 7 did, but like I just told you, Puff and them, they got people in there that is looking at every juror, and it seemed like he may be the juror that runs the show and feel like that everything Puff was doing was disgusting and might, talk to the other people and convince them. Because they even wrote a letter to the judge trying to get him off, but the judge said, nah, we going with this. We going with it. So they got rid of juror number 6 and kept juror number 7.
You have any insight on what was shown on the tapes?
They didn't let nobody in what they call the chambers. They didn't let nobody see that. Only the people in their monitors, they could see that and they could hear it. But at first, the people that was in the courtroom number 1, they could hear it. They could hear some of the freak off, and you could hear Diddy telling people what to do in the tapes. And then the court officer made them lower the microphones in their heads, and because they were doing it at Diddy's table, the lawyers them. They were doing it at Diddy's table and they was too close to the mics. So they made them turn it down so the people in the galley and the chambers, stuff like that, couldn't hear what was going on. They didn't let nobody see him. And the media and the public people were saying that because it's in federal court and it's going to be in public record at one time, it should be shown to the public now. But the judge then wouldn't allow none of that stuff to happen. But you could tell that the people were disgusted on some of the stuff that they were seeing. They was disgusted, man. You could see, especially some of the men.
How you know they was disgusted?
By their facial, as a juror, you're supposed to be as calm, cool, and collective as possible. But when you see something and you go like, and you're trying to hold it back, a lot of times you got to realize it's an involuntary eye movement, and it's just based on what you see and you feel. You understand? You hear something, you see something, you might do a movement and not even knowing that you're doing the movement. And you could see that from some of the jurors.
Few moments in this trial were as electric as Friday, June 20th, 2025. When Brendan Paul, the one-time assistant, granted immunity, stepped into the witness box in Judge Aaron Subramanian's Manhattan Federal courtroom, and all eyes fixed on him. After a 2-day adjournment for June 19th and a juror's sudden vertigo, the hush was broken by the low murmur of flashbulbs as Paul, flanked by marshals, cleared his throat and prepared to recount the now infamous freak-offs he helped. Organized for Sean Diddy Combs, earlier that week, prosecutors had detailed his insider role in procuring ketamine, cocaine. and other drugs elements Paul had hinted at in sealed filings before his March 2024 arrest in Miami, which ended in a diversionary program rather than jail time. As Paul's gaze swept the packed courtroom, the charged silence made clear not everyone in Diddy's orbit was pleased. And what came next promised to upend everything the defense thought it knew. Few people realized just how deep Brendan Paul's involvement went until he laid it all out in court. Between late 2022 and March 2024, Paul wasn't just tagging along, he was the go-between for Sean Diddy Combs, sourcing everything from cocaine and ketamine to ecstasy and 2C. For the raucous after-hours gatherings insiders call Wild King Nights, peers described him as the engine fueling those notorious parties, ushering in a haze of drugs and lavish excess that all came to a head in March 2024. When Paul was arrested on cocaine possession charges in Miami, rather than face jail time, he walked away with a diversion program deal that granted him immunity and the chance to testify against his former boss. That was a move that transformed him from loyal aide into the prosecution's star witness and alleged mule whose story would shake the very foundation of Diddy's defense. Rare glimpses inside those Wild King Nights read like scenes. From a high-stakes thriller, Brendan Paul painted a picture of hidden sweets stocked floor to ceiling with 2C crystals, ecstasy pills neatly lined in rows, and vials of ketamine tucked into sleek leather cases. He described dimly lit rooms where mirrors caught the glow of neon lamps, baby oil shimmered on satin sheets, and trays of premium liquor circled the crowd like wolfish sentinels. Every detail down to the playlist skewed for peak effect served as evidence of the calculated extravagance fueling the events. Prosecutors argued these weren't isolated parties, but a racketeering enterprise, with Paul's logistics proving the existence of an organized distribution network rather than mere personal indulgence. As the defense scrambled to reframe these anecdotes as youthful excess, the prosecution's narrative only grew stronger. Gene Deal wasn't always in Sean Diddy Combs' crosshairs. For years he served as Diddy's chief of security, standing shoulder to shoulder at illicit events and private gatherings until cracks began to show in late 2024. Disillusioned by what he calls a pattern of unchecked excess and favoritism, Deal quietly distanced himself, then took to podcasts and social channels to criticize the very empire he once protected. That fiery break came to a head on May 25th, 2025, outside the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan. A popular content creator was live streaming Brendan Paul's explosive testimony when Deal, spotting a camera aimed his way, stormed across the plaza. With his voice low but fierce, he warned the creator he wouldn't stand for any one-sided narratives, advancing until onlookers thought he might strike. The confrontation captured in dozens of videos that have since racked up millions of views laid bare just how personal this trial feels to those in Diddy's inner circle. And with Deal's loyalties fully flipped, everyone watching now wonders, what will he reveal next? With Brendan Paul's bombshell testimony now echoing through these marble halls, all eyes turned back to Sean Diddy Combs and the defense's next move, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Facing racketeering and alleged sex trafficking, charges that carry the possibility of life behind bars, Combs' legal team must now dismantle a portrait of an organized criminal enterprise painted by Paul's insider account. Will they successfully cast doubt on Paul's motives and recollections, or will the prosecution's narrative, built on every detail from baby oil-slicked sweets to carefully orchestrated drug runs, carry the day? And then there's Gene Deal, whose public crusade against his former employer shows no sign of slowing. Each new clip he drops raises the pressure on the defense and keeps the spotlight squarely on Diddy's courtroom saga. As this high-profile trial hurtles toward closing arguments, one thing is certain: if you thought you'd seen it all, the next chapter promises revelations that could rewrite everything. Facing a 5-count federal indictment, Sean Diddy Combs now stands accused of orchestrating a racketeering conspiracy tied to a network of late-night freak-off parties, alongside multiple counts of sex trafficking by force. Fraud or coercion allegations that carry the very real threat of life behind bars. Each racketeering count alone can trigger a life sentence, and the sex trafficking charges add their own maximums of life imprisonment plus decades for related transportation offenses. But the government's case built on insider testimony, text messages, surveillance videos, and detailed financial records. Diddy's defense faces the daunting task of discrediting privileged aides turned star witnesses and unraveling what prosecutors call a meticulously planned enterprise. As closing arguments draw near, every strategist and pundit wonders whether the jury will buy the portrayal of a lavish criminal operation or side with the superstar's claim of youthful excess, and if why. Who thought this saga was intense so far? You haven't heard the best part, and that's where we'll leave it for now. Diddy's fate now rests in the hands of 12 jurors weighing every revelation, every whispered secret, and every dramatic twist that has played out in this courtroom. Drama, whether the defense can successfully cast doubt on these insider accounts or the prosecution's portrait of a meticulously orchestrated enterprise holds firm. One thing is clear. This trial has already rewritten the narrative around one of music's biggest icons. Asterisk if you enjoyed this deep dive. Hit that like button and let me know in the comments which twist surprised you most. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss our next breakdown, because if you thought this story was wild, you haven't heard the best part yet. Stay tuned, asterisk.